first ever WhatevzMedia podcast. Today we're talking about the very hot button topic of abortion, pro-life or pro-choice. And I'm pretty sure we all have varying opinions on that, so... Yeah.
I'm sure we do.
Alright, let's start from my left side. How do you feel about it?
I'm pro-choice.
You want to get... Why?
Because a woman has the right to do whatever she wants to her body and or her baby.
That's fair. Do you feel similar or different?
My opinion on abortion is rather intense, actually. You know, I'm pro-life in the sense that, you know, it's a baby, you know.
Okay,
you know
would you argue with somebody if, let's say, they decide to have an abortion because they forgot to put a condom on the guy's dick?
That should be something you forget. That should be...
Yeah, but what happens if, like, are you okay with people getting an abortion just because it's a method of birth control for them?
No, I'm against that.
Yeah.
I think that's completely retarded. I mean, I think the only reason you should be getting abortions is because, you know, fucked up shit happen.
Yeah,
I mean,
things definitely, there's definitely exceptions to every rule. Well, I would argue that I'm not totally okay if, like, sometimes people use all the methods of birth control that they can, but something still happens. And if you're in a situation where you really can't have a baby, or you can't, your body isn't physically able to give birth, which happens to a lot of girls that are younger. They shouldn't be having sex in that case, but people still do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you're saying if you're not financially able to have a baby, you should not be having sex?
No, what I'm saying is you need to be more careful, but accidents still happen. In that case, I am pro-choice. But if you're just continuously having like promiscuous sex and continuously having abortions because you're not being careful, then I would say it's definitely wrong. And especially since you have the option to not keep the baby. You have the option to give it to a family that really wants one, especially in Canada where we have good adoption services and systems. And
yeah.
A lot of people would rather adopt within their country instead of going to China like so many people have to.
And what do you think about people saying that abortion shouldn't even exist? It should be like not even like they shouldn't be happening at all, and that anytime anybody gets pregnant they should have a baby.
Well, here's one thing I heard. Well, I was reading a website. I was doing research on abortion, and I read this website about this woman who was continuously getting raped by her father since she turned 11 years old, and she got pregnant.
Right.
And her father wouldn't let her have an abortion.
And naturally, you don't want to keep that baby.
Yeah, and yeah, exactly. And so like, there's I think that was my camera.
Yeah, it was.
I don't know. I don't know.
We did what we could.
Yeah.
Ladies and gentlemen, we just lost a view.
We apologize.
We'll fix that later.
Yeah, technical difficulties.
Anyways,
it's our first
back
one.
to our main subject here.
So it's like, yeah, there's definitely exceptions. Like, I definitely don't agree that it should be used as often as it is, in all honesty.
Yeah. So, yeah, I mean, sometimes it's even better for the baby itself just to be dead or to be aborted, I guess.
Yeah.
Not dead.
Yeah.
But because...
It's not dead till it's aborted.
Yeah, but especially, like you said, with the daughter getting pregnant from her dad, not only is that, like, a messed up situation to begin with, there's also consequences for the baby when it's born.
Yeah, it's not going to be mentally well.
It has a direct blood relation with...
incest there, so yeah.
Like the daughter and the dad have blood relation, and that just doesn't make a baby.
It won't necessarily screw up the baby, but
it's a very high chance.
It often does.
Yeah, and not only that, it's being born into a family that is like, the girl's only 11, she's clearly going to be still in the house with the father, right?
Exactly.
You don't want to bring a baby into that.
Exactly. I mean, the situation's messed up. You don't want to bring a baby into a messed up house where it's going to where the person's going to grow up to be like the kind of person who's going to shoot up a school or something.
And also, like, you don't want it to be like where the father is, finds out she's pregnant and ends up beating the baby out of her, like physically beating her, and that gets an abortion that way.
There's also that.
Yeah. And it's also, is it really a person until it reaches that certain stage of pregnancy?
Well, I don't know.
Human.
That's that argument because it doesn't have a heart. It can't live if it was born at that point. Is it a person?
It is after a certain point in the pregnancy.
That's why you're not allowed to have abortions beyond that point.
Before that, you're right. It's a cell that has no.
It's a fetus.
It has no thought. Like it's just like it's essentially like just like you know, just a cell that will eventually develop into somebody that'll have thought and actual being. Yeah. But from like I think it's like I don't know the science behind it, but I know for the first bit, all it is it's just fertilized. It's a fertilized cell.
Yeah.
And so the cell doesn't have any thought. It doesn't really have a heart. It really doesn't
develop a heart.
It's not at all conscious. So you're not really killing anything but the cell.
Yeah.
And that's not murderous because a cell isn't a person, or neither is it an animal, or a plant even. Not that anybody ever.
It's a living organism though. That's the thing. It doesn't feel pain.
I doubt it. I strongly don't believe that.
Yeah, it does feel pain. I'm pretty sure. It
would feel pain.
It would feel pain. I'm pretty sure, but how much pain and like for how long, I'm not really too positive on that. So that's always up for argument. And there's also different.
We can find out.
Well, we can.
Hearings for that.
And there's different kinds of abortion as well. There's surgical and there's they're like it's complicated.
Punching.
Don't. That's not legal.
But another bad thing about abortion aside from maybe killing. Maybe killing, or what some people would say is killing. Yeah. Another negative side about it is that it could make the girl unable to have another child in the future.
Yeah, that's true.
And that sucks for for like rape victims who decide to get their their rape-induced baby.
Yeah,
aborted, and it causes consequences for that lady. Like if the girl's like 16 or whatever, she gets raped, she gets pregnant, she gets an abortion. It sucks for her when she's 21 and actually wants a kid.
Yeah.
And so, that's a time when abortion I think is a really good thing in this world.
Yeah.
It stops horrible things from happening. Like, I don't know about you guys, but I certainly wouldn't want to have a baby that was because of rape.
Oh yeah, no, definitely not. But it's at the same time, it's like what I said earlier. It's very, very easy to not keep the child. It's very easy to put your child in adoption.
Yeah, that is true.
So like that's a perfectly good option, and it's not exactly like overly expensive. It's not like something that's only available to the upper class.
That's right.
Or I'm happy my sisters all got like one baby, fucking aborted.
Yeah.
Yeah. If my older sister had any more kids, she'd be screwed. She's broke. If Serena had any kids, my middle sister,
it'd be a problem.
I guess. Yeah. She's not fit to be a parent right now.
Exactly.
Possibly ever. And then my little sister, well, let's be honest here, goes to a French high school.
Yeah.
So this is our first podcast. We after an interesting conversation right there about abortions.
Yeah.
How do you guys feel? You guys feel nervous at all?
No.
I feel like I could use the shit.
Feel alright.
Yeah, feel alright.
Yeah.
40% of all women end a pregnancy by abortion sometime in their life.
And that was a little additional
of all women, like,
content for you viewers. There you go.
Call that Facts Mr. Fan.
Thank you. We'll just call him our stats man.
Yeah. So behind the scenes.
Yeah, just throwing facts. What was that? 45% of what?
More than 40% of women will get an abortion in their life.
More than
40% of women in the world or of the Western world.
This is U.S. stats, so
that's okay.
I'm happy for that too.
I don't know. I'm very undecided on it. In all honesty, I'm really not too sure how I feel about it. But they're definitely like that girl who was getting raped by her father. Like there's extenuating circumstances. But a girl has sex with a boyfriend at 18. It's usually people all in her life all know that she's having sex. It's. You have the baby, you give it up for adoption, it's not that big a deal. It's, of course, you don't want to make your body go through the pregnancy, but
If everyone knows you're having sex, they should tell you wear a condom. Thanks, sex pills. You got pills. 2 fingers, use them.
Yeah.
Alright, so, that being said...
I'm kind of excited to see that part.
So,
oh my gosh.
So I think the general idea here is that it's okay to have an abortion under certain circumstances.
Yeah.
However, if you're using it as a birth control
basic birth control, you're
using it. You're misusing.
You're abusing it essentially.
And that's ridiculous.
It's sad.
All right, and let's say but then some people would argue, okay, if you have a rape victim, if they get raped, they know they got raped. Why don't they get the Plan B pill instead of getting an abortion? Because that ends it right there.
Because they wouldn't have expected to get raped.
Yeah.
They're not going to be taking.
No, the Plan B is the day after pill. Do you know what that is?
Day after? Yeah. You can take those?
Yeah. Yes. It costs quite a bit though. Like the cost anywhere from like $50 to $70. Some places you can get it cheaper. Usually not. And that costs for a bit. Like you get raped, you're humiliated, you're in a mental state you're not supposed to be in. You usually go to the police. You have a whole lot of you do at the hospital.
I'm pretty sure if I got raped, I wouldn't have enough money for that pill.
You wouldn't need a Plan B pill because you can't get pregnant. Not to mention if you got
That's
raped,
just speculation. That's just speculation.
Tony gets pregnant.
There's no raping Tony. It's only having sex with Tony.
I guess.
The only difference is it rough and forced or is it nice and intimate?
Oh, let's not do that.
Let's go with the second one.
It's hairy. That's all we know.
Oh, alright. Since we're talking about abortions, we just seem to be going down the hill towards
We're getting
sex.
sleazy, so
let's just hit the sex right on.
Let's hit the sex right on.
All right,
let's go right on it.
Yeah.
Let's jump.
So what's your
hip hop?
Woo.
So what's an appropriate age to have sex?
That's a good question.
That's a solid question.
All right.
If you're my child, not till ever. Unless you're a boy, in which case it's alright.
Oh God.
That's not being sexist. That's just scary.
Well,
Come on, let's go.
Sorry about that.
Sorry, yeah.
Burp.
Well, definitely, boys shouldn't really be able to. Girls can't physically really enjoy sex until they're about the age of 16. It actually hasn't really physically developed enough to really have proper orgasms and to really and their body wouldn't be able to handle getting pregnant up until that age either, because they're just not physically developed enough. Their hips aren't wide enough, and down there isn't really developed enough, and it just wouldn't work.
Women at 14 getting pregnant.
But it's not okay. It's not good on their. It's really hard on their bodies.
Okay, well, 14, I can almost guarantee you, is an appropriate age to be having sex, let alone getting pregnant.
That's a legal age of consent, though. I think is kind of
14. I find a little young. 14, you don't really know what you're getting yourself into.
I remember myself at 14. No way.
In my judgment, I'm thinking 16 is probably a good age to start getting into it.
It's still young. I think it's still young, but
it's still relatively young. But I mean, I think it's an okay age.
I don't think it should be illegal at 16, but I don't think people should do it. To be honest.
I mean, if I had a son and he was 16 and he was having sex, I'd be okay with that, as long as he knows to use a condom or
pill and things like that.
Can't wait for
just make sure the girl doesn't get pregnant because I know for one I won't be able to afford to support a child as well as my child's child. When I'm only
a kid shouldn't be having kids. There's a big one. Teenage pregnancy.
Yeah.
There's another one. Girls trying to get pregnant at the age of 16. Have you guys heard about this?
No. Girls trying to get pregnant at any age. It's ridiculous.
Well, unless you're married or have a steady boyfriend or have a father or are are fiscally able to take care of a child.
Or financially.
That's what fiscally means.
Oh. Fancy words confuse me.
I'm sorry. Then you should not be trying to get pregnant. I'm sorry. It's not okay, and it's definitely not okay to trick the guy. Say you're on the pill or do things like that, because I've met people that's happened to.
Oh yeah.
Just very
But I find that's probably more of a kind of
happened to me twice.
This guy might dump me or whatever, so I'm just gonna scare him to staying with me. That kind of plot.
Yeah. But again, that's not okay.
Yeah, it's definitely not okay.
Yeah, and there's another thing. We could talk all day about appropriate age to have sex, and then everybody's got their own statute of maturity.
That's true as well.
Yeah.
All right. Anything else we should mention here?
What do you feel is appropriate age? You didn't really say much
I don't have an appropriate age, never.
No?
No.
Well, what do you think is too young?
Too young?
Yeah.
1 through 15.
Yeah.
As soon as you're born, it's alright, because you're not 1 yet. But 1 to 15, that's it. You're done.
Yeah. No, and also you get when you first have sex, you develop an emotional attachment to that person. And I remember how fast things change socially when you're 15?
Yeah.
Imagine how quick you lose that person, right? And it's very hard to deal with. And I had girlfriends who had sex at 15 and
look where they are now.
Yeah, they're screwed up. They've got horrible. They've done horrible things, and they became very slutty afterwards. So it's not a good idea to lose it at 15. I don't think, especially for girls, because they form such a strong chemical attachment to the person that it's just when that breaks off, and it almost definitely will. A lot of them just go crazy afterwards, and they just get very sleazy and start getting into drugs and alcohol way too young.
Me and Pat don't have a valid reason to be concerned, though. We haven't had sex yet. We're still holding the V card.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
I'm trying to help you out, Pat.
How are you trying to help me out?
I don't understand how that helps me out in
I
any
really
way.
don't understand how this helps me. And quite frankly, I don't want to talk anymore about it.
This is Pepsi, let him put his pee in your V.
Alright. Switching topics.
Just one correction.
Switching topics.
Yeah.
The legal age of consent in Canada is 16.
It's 16?
Yeah, isn't it 14?
That was positive.
I just checked, it's 16.
In Quebec, it's 14.
In Quebec, it's 14.
It's 14.
Or Ontario, it's one of the two.
No, it's
We're in
definitely
Quebec, by the way.
It's definitely Quebec.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is Quebec. Don't worry, I don't like it either.
Yeah, we don't necessarily agree with it either.
It's a cheap, nice place. I like it.
Yeah.
Being an Englishman in Quebec.
I'd rather live here than in Ottawa.
Oh, here's another topic though. What is the, if you are a minor, how old do you think a person should be being having sex with a minor? Like, what do you think the range should be? Like 5 years, 4 years, none? Like,
A minor being somebody.
A minor is anyone between the under the age of 18. It's just we already kind of stretched it up to like 14. What do you think is the appropriate age of someone to be in a relationship or having sexual relations with someone?
I'm gonna stick with my original answer and say 16. I'd say if you're dating someone at 14, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's cool. I mean, if you're just kissing and cuddling, whatever,
Yeah.
whatever, that's cool. For a serious relationship, I'd say around 16, 17. That way, you have more emotional.
So what do you mean by 16, 17? So you mean the 16, 17-year-old can date anyone up to like the age of 40?
No,
you mean like the age of 25?
Well,
like what are you saying? I'm asking about range.
I'm not one to judge age. To me, like, it's, like if a person's 16, like by the time you're 16, 17, you already pretty much know. You have a pretty good idea of what you want.
Yeah.
And it's worth, if you want to date somebody who's older, that's fine. I mean, that's your call, it's your life. And who am I to say that's wrong? I mean, it's not. I don't see a problem with it as long as it's not like some sort of like crazy, I don't know.
Like essentially, my rule is if they're old enough to be a father at all or mother, then that's not okay. It's really not okay. Like I think that. Well, I think it just should go up to about 5 years until you're up to the age of about 18. But a 5-year difference.
Yeah.
Cause like.
Okay, so what age is appropriate to have kids?
What age is appropriate to have kids? Well, that's a whole other ballpark because that's a. You shouldn't be a minor because kids are shouldn't have kids. There's one. Two.
Let's say when you have a decent job.
Like I said earlier, when you're financially
it's not
able to.
Age at that point, it's just.
Yeah. Are you able to support the kid? And,
well, let's say you're 20 years old.
Yeah.
Okay.
Let's say you're 20.
Yes.
Okay, just like right now, if I ask you, being 20, are you able to have a kid?
No.
But there may be somebody who is able to.
Oh,
somebody who's 20 years old.
No, that varies.
And
That's yeah.
So 20 years old could be a good age. Anytime could be a good age.
Yeah, not anytime.
Well,
definitely not underage.
As long as you're able to.
If you cannot legally drink, then you should not have a kid.
That is a
rule.
I'll take that.
If you cannot afford alcohol.
If you can't afford alcohol.
It's not a good time.
No. And we're talking basic, like can you not afford a 2-4 beer? Don't have a kid. Because they eat.
I can afford it every second Friday.
Tony's not gonna be having a baby anytime soon.
Nope.
No, neither am I. And like, and it's different for everybody. If you're a student, you definitely don't want to have a kid.
Especially in this economy.
No, yeah, exactly.
That's probably like 30's the new 20.
Let's try not to talk about
that's why you don't like the subject of money.
No.
Okay.
Somebody's obviously not. Oh, I'm not one to talk.
The other way.
I probably got like 75 cents left on my debit, but
Yo, I've got $15. I'm excited.
Can I have some?
Sure.
Okay.
We'll share. Go buy some cheese.
We're gonna have to upload this now for sure so they can see. I'll tell them if you don't give me the fucking money.
Anyways, so yeah, back to appropriate age to dating and having children. I don't think it's my personal opinion, and I'm not saying this should be a law or anything, that you really should not be trying to have a baby if you do not have a significant other. It takes, if you've ever really like taken care of a child or like tried to raise children or have had younger siblings, it takes it's literally takes a village. It takes a bunch of people. You need help, and it's very hard to do it alone. So
takes two.
Yeah, so I don't think that you should. I really just don't think that you should, and that's it. Definitely shouldn't be a legal thing because lots of people get stuck, people get divorced, people die, things happen. But it's like I don't think someone should trick their boyfriend or someone they're sleeping with into getting them pregnant just so they can have a baby by themselves.
the easiest way to explain it is you have one fry. That's not enough. You gotta eat more. You know?
Alright, so how do you
hey,
feel?
You didn't let me elaborate.
How do you
elaborate.
No, I'm done.
Alright, how do you feel about...
I feel ashamed now.
Oh, you feel ashamed?
I feel ashamed. We're sorry.
Yeah, we are so sorry.
We apologize.
So how do you feel about, let's say, 2 guys and 2 women having a child, like lesbian or gay couples, if that's what you want to call them?
They'd have to
either one?
No, I think it's fine. I think that's totally fine. But I mean, it takes more than one person because, like, I've seen a lot of single parents in my life, and that's a personal opinion, that they have a really hard time raising a kid because there is no balance, because it takes a team. You need 2 people to kind of help take care of the kid when one's not around. Like, you know, if you're constantly hiring people, the kid's not going to get, like, that sort of family attachment. And it's also, like, when the parent is working 2 jobs to take care of his kid that they decided to have when they were, you know, maybe 22 and not ready when they thought they were, then they start to get really resentful. When the kid's a teenager and starts to get attitude, they get really resentful and they start to really take it out of them. Mm-hmm. And then the kid starts to suffer because it's not their fault they were born.
Yeah.
And I've seen that happen multiple times, and it's just, it's sad, and it really just shouldn't be happening, and I think you really just need to be careful.
How about you? What do you feel? About, like, let's say a lesbian, 2 lesbians, yeah. or 2 men.
If you don't raise them to be gay, there's no problem.
If you don't raise them to be gay?
Yeah.
What
like,
exactly
you could raise them, and you could be like, oh, just be gay, just be gay. There's so many straights in the world or something. Like, that doesn't make sense. Same thing goes with straights. Like, if they're like, oh, don't be gay, just be straight. That's fucked up. It doesn't make sense. Just if you can raise them and you're proper parents, and
definitely.
I think we all agree that you know, you're gonna love your child regardless of his or her sexual orientation, right?
Yeah.
Well, let's hope. If
But don't do you not
not
feel
these
like,
days yet.
Do you not feel like a male and female, like having both of those in a child's life is important? Because, you know, it's human nature. We relate to different genders differently. Like, as a man, I can talk to a girl about things that I wouldn't necessarily be able to talk to another man about.
Yeah.
You know, because it's a female, and you know.
I do agree, because we have a friend that has, his father passed away when he was a little younger, and he has a very hard time talking about certain things now with women and men, and so he kind of sort of seeks out that elder man companionship, and maybe people sometimes that he shouldn't.
He finds it in me.
He just, like, he'll go to family members, like other family members, his uncles, which is fine, but it's like that may not be true of some people. Some people might look for it in something they maybe shouldn't, like in relationships when they're 14, and they end up in trouble that they shouldn't be.
You got anything, Tony?
For real? No, just agreeance.
You just agreeance? All right. So,
how do you feel?
Well, I feel like to be honest, to be perfectly honest with you, I'm okay with you know, like a lesbian or gay couple raising a child. I mean, that, you know, that's within, you know, you have the right to do that, and that's perfectly okay. My thing is, though, I really do feel strongly that a child does need like a mom figure and a dad and a father figure.
Yeah.
It balances out, I find, but hey, you know.
But that's okay if it's an uncle or like someone older. Like, that's fine. Like, I don't disagree with that at all. But it's like it's needed. It's needed to give that good example, because that'll affect you for the rest of your life. Yeah, you get influenced by the people you're with, and it's good to have a balance between a mom figure and a dad figure. Watch a girl in a relationship when she's had a good father versus a bad one. Exactly. What's your take on that, Tony? You're just gonna nod in agreement again? Yeah. All right. Tony's a very easy guy to make you agree with your statements. Anyways. All right. So that's good. Yeah. Here's another question. You've asked me this before, that you've seen a lot of girls, especially younger girls, who constantly go after the guys that maybe aren't so good for them. Do you feel Do you feel this is the same way for men? Why do you think they make these choices? Do you think they like abuse? How do you guys feel? As cliche as it is, you know, the nice guys always lose. Yeah. It's just the way it is. Yeah. I mean, let's be honest here. Most of the guys who are nice, it's because they have a reason to be nice. Yeah, they were raised properly. Like, they're not going to push for things that they shouldn't. Exactly, but you know, some girls like to have that in a relationship, I suppose. I mean, maybe they like the idea of the man initiating everything. Yeah.
But at the same time, it's also because like, let's say like a nice like a nice guy is nice because he doesn't really have anything to be cocky about. You know what I mean? So like,
not necessarily, but
not necessarily.
No, I don't.
I think that plays a role in it. Like I mean like
it plays a role.
You have this big football guy, big football star or whatever, and everyone in school is big about him because he's whatever the quarterback of the football team. And, the cheerleaders go crazy for him, and of course the cheerleaders are always the hot girls, so they get their self-esteem goes up and up and up, and then they get so full of themselves that they feel that they have control, and then they just start imposing their everything that they want on the girl.
But all of that stuff isn't necessarily true. Like I don't want to say that all football players are jerks.
Oh no, I definitely agree.
Football.
They're
not a jerk.
Yeah,
came out nicely.
Tony's a nice man.
I got kicked out of it, but I mean.
There are people who manage themselves just fine. I mean, they play football and they're popular.
There are definitely a lot of really good-looking, very like well-balanced people out there. Like we're not saying that you have to be ugly to be a nice person, but I see what you mean. Well, you're more likely to get a nicer person when they aren't as don't have as much self-confidence when you're younger.
Exactly. It's not even just about self-confidence. It's admit it. Like in school and everything, you're always looking for like a hotter kind of guy, a guy who you find visually appealing.
Yeah, you're always looking for a hotter kind of girl, right? So.
Yeah, exactly. It goes both ways.
Yeah.
It goes both ways,
Men are definitely more visual, though. I just want to say that.
And and like especially at younger ages, your personality doesn't really count for much. People just want to have sex with whoever's.
Your hormones are kind of ruling your life when you're in your teen years. Let's be honest.
Whoever's available.
So you want that hot person.
Watch the American Pie movies. You'll see what we mean.
It's either have your sexual fantasies fulfilled with this hot.
Your 15-year-old porn watching, fantasies.
Yeah, with this hot.
Which essentially soft sex with anything.
Or you have your sexual fantasies, or somebody who can be like a nice, genuine boyfriend.
Yeah.
At certain ages, the hotter one takes the cake.
I heard a lot of girls say this, which I find is so stupid, that they don't want a nice guy because it's too boring. They get too bored. Everything's always easy, it's so boring. I absolutely hate that. It drives me crazy.
I'm a nice guy and I get into arguments all the time.
You get into what?
Arguments.
With who?
Everybody.
His ladies.
I don't know if I'd call you a nice guy. You're a beautiful man, though.
No, but I've seen that, and I've heard you argue before that you think, you didn't think, but you would argue that some women just enjoy abuse.
Yeah,
because you watched one of our friends go through a really stupid relationship, and she just kept going back to him, and I watched my sister do the exact same thing.
Which to me is just it blows my mind every time. I mean, especially if you're being abused. Yeah. Which you see a lot of. There's a lot of guys out there that have been. Yeah. They'll call their significant other names, or the girl, everyone call it a girl. Yeah. Names, or they'll throw things at them,
or they'll physically hurt them,
or they'll physically hurt them, which to me,
attack them.
To me, that draws a huge line there. When it starts getting physical, that's when I think
mental abuse. I watched people go through a 20-year relationship where the man was verbally abusing the woman, and he would never physically touch her, but I feel it's almost the verbal abuse is almost more damaging, because
it hits you. And, it's not just gonna be a little pinch. It's more of a thing that maybe haunt you. And
definitely
keep you up
easier to hide too, because you don't see bruises from that. Right?
It's kind of like when your mom punches you, but just slightly as a child. It hurts.
Your mom punched you as a child?
Well, she spanked me.
Well, yeah, my mom too, but
it didn't really hurt. What hurt was the fact that she was hitting me.
Yeah. But that's very different.
Yeah, that was more of a discipline thing.
That's a disciplinary thing.
Which is an interesting topic,
actually. That's another one, yeah.
Alright, let's go with this.
Spanking your kid, yes or no? Is it okay?
Yes. Your kid, now no, before yes. But
that's a general opinion, but I disagree.
You need to be able to hit your kids, otherwise they're going to be I really do believe hitting a child would definitely discipline it more. However, don't take your child's hand and just smack them against the wall.
Yeah,
that's just wrong.
I got spankings on my brothers.
There's a difference between...
Not a baby, but...
Spanking gets sent to the corner?
Yeah, gets
sent to the corner. I'm not getting sent to the corner.
Really?
Because let's face it...
ADHD, it's much worse.
Let's face it. None of us here... when we're doing something and our parents tell us to stop doing something, let's say let's say you go drink like every weekend, your parents come to you and be like, hey, you should stop drinking, whatever. You're not gonna stop because whatever those words, they just go whoop whoop. You know, they're in and out before you can even say like hello goodbye.
But when you're a kid, things are definitely, you need to learn to listen to your parents.
Yeah,
like, but for bigger reasons. Like, I remember my sister used to get spankings every once in a while because she kept trying to run onto the street. She thought it was funny. Oh. And she's, you know, she's gonna get hit by a car and die, and it's very important that she doesn't do that.
That's not so funny.
You know, exactly. So she got a spanking for that, and you know, giving your mom attitude at 6 is definitely not good. You know, little spanking for that. But there's, you know, there's always a line. You're gonna get some kid that gets attacked on the bum, and they're like, oh, okay, it's fine. But then there's some kids, parents who are like walloping their kids and whipping their kids with a belt and things like that, which I don't think is okay.
Oh, but that's completely wrong altogether, for sure. Yeah.
Like, I don't think it's okay.
Phone books, belts.
No.
No, thanks.
That definitely draws a line at abuse.
Yeah. I got the spoon.
But here's another thing about hitting your child, and Tony, you're for hitting children. Well, I mean, like, I don't mean like killing a child, but. We
are not for child abuse. I just want to put that out there at all.
If you do not,
so you think
if you do not spank your child, it will not come out right. It's gonna come out as a little dickhead that doesn't know how to do shit.
Okay, but let's take the mentality of that child. Let's try to figure out what they think. Okay, so like if you're the kind of parent that just goes up to the child and. Like, for me, like, I think I'd never hit my child. Yeah. I don't think I have that in me. Yeah. Even if it's just a little tap, I can't really see myself doing it. Yeah. I mean, but I take my child aside, and I'd sit there with my child and explain to him or her what exactly he or she did wrong. Yeah. And why it's wrong and why he or she shouldn't do it.
And timeout is more effective than a lot of people think if you stick to it.
Yeah, and as opposed to hitting my child, because I want my child to grow up to respect me. Yeah. I don't want my child growing up thinking that maybe physical violence is the answer. Yeah. But when it's, you know, because like when you're disciplining a child by hitting him, you're teaching him that, you know, like you don't want him to do something, so you're hitting him. So to him, he's realizing that you're a solution to.
Yeah. So he's hitting kids on the playground, and you get a phone call, right? You don't want to be like, oh, my mom.
Your solution to your problem for making him stop is to hit him. So like, what happens if like a kid's like kind of, you know, like bump shoulder and he's annoying your child, and your child just turns around
hits him with a lunchbox, like whips him in the face with a lunchbox.
Like that's the kind of thing I want to avoid. I don't want my child to think that hitting someone's okay as a solution.
Well, the thing is, my parents always use it as a very last resort. Like my sister had made it a fun game to run it onto the street. Mommy, come get me, you know, kind of thing. And like, I think it's perfectly valid. My mom gave her a spanking, and she didn't do it again. And whenever I really did something bad and I got a spanking, I never did it again. Yeah. But I am not a violent person. I've never been in a fist fight in my life. I never walloped anybody for doing that kind of thing. It was like a very last resort, like, okay, you have to stop now, kind of thing.
So. Yeah, if it's immediately putting you in danger, then I guess, you know, you have to send the message out one way or another. Yeah. And hitting them might be the best way of doing it sometimes. Yeah. Because they don't listen to you when you talk to them. Yeah. Like, I don't know, like if I told my child not to do something and I caught him doing it again after I spoke to him, at that point, I don't know.
Everyone's got their own line of where things need to stop, and it definitely depends on what it is. So.
Yeah. So I mean, like I'd have to ground him or something. I'd have to do something because I'm like one thing I'm big about is I don't like letting children have control over their parents. Yeah. No. Like I hate seeing it. I see it often enough where
it's hard in public when you see a kid taking.
Where the parents just kind of give up on something that they're trying to teach their child or a lesson or on a rule. So, you know, that sucks because then you have your kids walking all over you and you're supposed to be their leader and they're just, you know, stomping all over you.
And that's another thing to bring it back to the parents thing of where like, is it okay to just have a baby by yourself, or it's no because it's 1 versus 1 in that way when you're trying to discipline your child, whereas it's a team versus 1 kind of thing. Which is a kid's mentality, which is the mentality I had. It was so much easier to get what I wanted when my dad was on a business trip.
Yeah.
So, like...
The mom's always the easier target.
Usually.
Yeah, usually a mom's a lot easier to guilt into something.
Yeah. Mother's guilt is their own weapon against them.
Yep.
It's an easy one.
Yeah.
Alright, are we good?
Alright. There's one more topic.
Right, what's this topic?
Well, feel free to bring it up.
Legalization of marijuana.
Legalization of
marijuana.
No.
Are we talking specifically about Canada or like as a global?
Let's do a whole Western world. So
we'll do the Western world.
Let's do
Western means Canada.
North America.
Yeah, North America and Eastern European, Western European countries like England.
So why isn't marijuana legal?
Okay, well, you go first because you're pro. I'm
why isn't it legal?
Why is it illegal?
I don't know.
You have no idea why?
No.
It intoxicates you. It's bad for you. It's incredibly bad for you guys. Like, if people smoke a lot of marijuana, like if you're a man, it makes it very hard to get ready to have an erection. Essentially, it makes it a lot harder, and it definitely makes it softer.
It's his choice, though.
Oh yeah, it's his choice. I'm not saying it isn't, but this is why, and this is one of the reasons it's bad for you.
But then smoking does that too. Just normal cigarettes, that does that to you.
Yeah.
I mean, like, drinking's bad, smoking's bad.
Yeah.
Drinking gets you in more trouble. Smoking.
Depending. That depends. Let's not.
It does.
That depends on who you are.
If you're drinking right, it does. I will back you up on that.
You can get into a fight, you can start yelling at people. Chances are, if you're drunk, you're rowdy.
Yeah, it does typically, marijuana will definitely make you more calm than alcohol. Yeah. But that depends on the person. Relax. And some people just do not react well to marijuana at all. I've seen it's just, and that's never fun. But alcohol's the same thing, and you could argue the same thing, but the thing is, my thing is, people are never going to smoke to not get high.
Oh, no, oh yeah, for
exactly.
sure. Nobody's going to smoke weed
you know, are you always going to drink to get drunk? No.
Exactly.
You're going to have a beer with dinner? Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah,
and the thing is, there's nothing in marijuana that is good for you physically at all.
There's nothing.
It makes you feel good.
Smoking that makes you.
No, I'm not saying smoking's okay.
Okay.
But alcohol, if we're gonna do verses here, there's like a lot of thing in wine that's really good for you, especially red wine for women. There's a lot of things in there that's really good for you. Beer is a lot. There's a lot of really physical advantages to having a beer every once in a while. It's really good for your hair.
I love my beer.
It's good for your hair. It's really good for your hair.
I love my beer too.
Beer is pretty good.
It's good.
Budweiser.
Yeah.
Drinking it makes you wise.
Drinking that makes you wiser.
It's a nice slogan.
That's pretty good. Maybe they'll buy that off you or something. Who knows?
Please do.
That's pretty good.
It's kind of cute. Anyways.
I use that one day.
Yeah, so that's why. That's why I feel like drinking is perfectly fine to be legal and just marijuana is not. But yeah, go.
No, you go.
That's okay. Come on.
Okay. Well, the way I see it, drinking beer makes you intoxicated?
Mm-hmm. Not always.
Not necessarily.
Yeah.
Well, okay, if you're drinking correctly, it will make you intoxicated. If you smoke weed, it will make you intoxicated. You could still get lung cancer from weed.
Yeah.
But there's also a lot of good things that come from weed.
Like what?
Like, okay, let's say cancer patients, they smoke medical marijuana so that they don't hurt as much.
That's true, but that's medical. That's a whole other different
It's essentially, it doesn't have to be just medical. You can smoke just normal weed and still feel...
Yeah, as a painkiller, I think that's fine. If it's medical, then it's perfectly fine. But if you are smoking constantly all the time, and that's the other thing about marijuana is like people feel that they have the ability to drive when they're on it, and like almost everyone, I think, would agree. Drinking and driving, no, not okay. But a lot of people would argue that smoking marijuana on the job is perfectly fine.
On the job?
Yeah, like give an example, sorry. My dad drives 12 hours a day for his job. He delivers things all day, and the majority of his coworkers smoke weed all day while they're driving, and they feel like that's totally fine.
Well, I mean, it's,
But you're still intoxicated. Something could happen. A kid runs out on the road. You can't tell because you're.
Yeah, that's right. But but I find, it depends how intoxicated you are, because you'll have people that say one beer, no drive. One beer, and
there's legal levels everywhere, and that changes. So
and for some people who chronically smoke weed, like a joint or sometimes even just half a joint is essentially having a beer. You're not that intoxicated. You just have the edge off your shoulder.
It depends on the person.
It depends on the person.
Yeah, it depends on the person.
Sure. Don't take our word for it.
And their tolerance. But I mean, like you should know. You should know if you're okay to drive.
Some people don't though, and they feel that they are, and they can't tell, and all of a sudden, they hit a kid or just a person on their bike. Because let's face it, bikes on roads in Canada are extremely annoying. They cut in front of cars constantly. Per se that happens, you're sober, you can stop. You're high, you don't realize you're kind of, something shiny over there, and then You know what I mean?
Yeah, but but if you're not necessarily always at that level of high though.
Oh, that's for sure. No, definitely.
Just like you're not particularly always like just because you have a beer doesn't mean that you're pissed drunk.
Oh yeah, no, that's true.
I mean, there's definitely a scale there.
Yeah, but I feel like people have a harder time telling when it's not okay for them to drive high than when they have the drunk level.
Yeah.
Because the thing with alcohol is that like there is that percentage, like there is that legal level. So you know, at past that certain point, you can't and have those like breathalyzers to start cars and things like that. But with marijuana, you can almost never tell, and because of the people have different reactions to different plants, and you buy it from different people or something. Not
and you don't know if that stuff is laced with anything.
If you legalize it, the government can make their own brands. And then
that is a big plus.
The government can set a standard, a safety standard.
Yeah, and you have like if you
instead of sending us to jail, Stephen Harper, you could potentially make a lot of people live a little bit longer. Let's be honest.
Let's be honest, but that's true.
Less people addicted to crack cocaine.
I'm at that point where I would rather it be legalized. I'm not for legalizing it, but I would rather be legalized than have people sent to jail for like 10 years for having a joint. That's ridiculous.
And I realize that you guys don't really like. Well, at least Tony say you don't like talking about money.
Yeah.
But also at the same time, if you're selling marijuana, I mean through like stores and stuff, you can tax it.
Yeah.
And tax it, and then just make money off it. It'll help the economy. The thing is, it's never going to happen with Harper.
We can all dream, but no.
We all know that for sure.
We're stuck with him for a little while.
Yeah, so
Liberals or NDP, make a note of this.
So for you marijuana smokers out there, hide. Stephen
Hide.
Harper's around.
Yeah, and the thing is, with you making it legal, it becomes a whole other different standard of thing. It's where if it stays illegal, it becomes just another one of the illegal narcotics, where you have marijuana, then it kind of goes, in my head it goes like crack cocaine, heroin, and it kind of becomes a gateway drug for all these other ones, where if it's legalized, you know what I mean?
It just becomes a normal thing.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but in history, when alcohol was illegal, wasn't there a time where everybody was always like, everyone was drinking illegally, and then when it became legal, everyone just kind of stopped?
Yeah.
So also, another thing about the marijuana is, if you want people to stop smoking marijuana, just legalize it. Because there goes the thrill of breaking the law, and I don't really get a thrill out of like whatever sneaking plants around or whatever, but
yeah, make sure you don't sneak the plants.
Some people might get a thrill out of it.
It would definitely encourage.
And get them started. Like, oh, look at me, I'm so cool. You're smoking a J, getting high.
That's definitely the mentality of a lot of kids.
With a legal substance, and that definitely encourages people to so they're badass. Excuse my French.
But the thing is, if my kid was going to be rebellious and wanted to start into drugs, I would rather them start into weed than crack.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? But like, if weed becomes legal, then they're like, oh, who cares? It's legal, and then they don't want to be rebellious, so they go into crack instead. You know what I mean?
That is true. Yeah. I mean, you're taking away that first step.
Yeah.
And you're leaving another step that's much worse.
Yeah, which is never should be legal ever.
Yeah. Oh yeah. There are drugs out there that should never be legal.
And it shouldn't exist, like plain, but like.
All right. So with that being said, anything else?
Closing statements.
All right, so that concludes the first episode of this.
Our first ever WhatevzMedia podcast.
However interesting it was.
Yeah.
Very. I watched it already.
They were intellectual conversations. I'm actually quite pleased with what came out of this.
I'm excited. Please rate, comment, and subscribe.
All right. And
preferably all three of them.
All three.
But you could not do it. It doesn't matter.
And we don't necessarily have a schedule set up at all for these. We don't know when these will ever be created again.
We will let you know.
But yeah, that information will definitely be out within the next day, probably
the next few days.
Next few
for
days.
Sure. Yeah.
Maybe even tomorrow. Who knows? All right. So bye.
Bye.